A comparison for taste when you make bread with unbleached. Why unbleached? I'm going to explain in a moment. So this is found in Quebec province. Maybe other flours are found outside the Quebec province. In Canada, selection is the Metro grocery brand. Compliments is the IGA grocery brand. Five Roses, and then Robin Hood. I'm doing bread only with unbleached flour. So in my opinion, the Metro brand has a good taste. So the bread made with this flour has a good taste. IGA, we say in French IGA or IGA, to me this has very little taste. Even not just compared with the Metro brand, but just overall the bread just to me doesn't feel like it has a taste. Five Roses is pretty similar with the Compliments IGA brand. So these two here have pretty little taste to them. These are the least preferred for, at least for my taste. Robin Hood has quite a different taste compared to all other three. It's very tasty, in my opinion. It's more tasty than the Metro brand selection, and definitely much more tasty than the Five Roses and Compliments. Robin Hood tastes more like pastry, if you want, and also I find that it has a sweet taste. So I'm not adding any sugar to bread. When I do bread, also I don't add salt at all. So basically, if you want, just my recipe is yeast, could be dry. Usually it's dry yeast. I don't add sugar to that yeast either. So it's yeast, flour, unbleached, and water and milk. So I put, maybe if you want, usually the bread I do, it's about 1 kilo of flour. About is not precise. About 600 milliliters, of which usually 400 milliliters water, 200 milliliters milk, 2.2 or 3.5, and that's it, and yeast, of course. So I find that the Robin Hood flour unbleached has a sweet taste and a pastry taste, which I could not find in any other three. It's definitely, at least to my taste, more tasty than all other three, including the Metro brand one. I much prefer it, Robin Hood. My problem is I have a problem with kidneys, and I don't tolerate well sugar, any kind of sugar. So I'm not sure, I didn't eat a lot of Robin Hood flour, but it felt like when I was eating, my kidneys didn't appreciate it. I'm not getting into details, so that's the reason. Just a side note, I don't normally eat Robin Hood just because of that reason. Otherwise, if I didn't have a problem with my kidneys, this would have been by far my favorite, by far, at least twice as good as the Metro brand. And again, I just cannot even compare it with the two others. Now, there are small things to understand. Obviously, the flour is not going to necessarily have always the same taste. Maybe some areas, if you are talking about Canada, which is very big, some areas will get grain from one area. So maybe if you buy Robin Hood from the western coast of Canada, maybe they are going to source their grains from different area of Canada, and they may not taste the same. So really, it's just I can only speak for what I buy in my province, in Quebec province, Eastern Canada, and also maybe this may differ by the seasons. We don't have crops obviously for at least 6 months in the year, so I guess grains get stored. Maybe there is a different treatment depending on the season, so maybe this will not apply for the rest of the year. I'm speaking maybe summertime. One more thing, I did notice on the package, Robin Hood is produced in Ontario. Metro also is produced in Ontario, and complements IGA, it's also produced in Ontario. These three are produced in Ontario. I don't know about the Five Rose one. I know there is a mill in downtown Montreal, basically in the old port of Montreal. There is a big mill, or at least storage. So I don't know, maybe it's produced in Quebec, in Montreal, but I'm not sure about it. And also I don't know the source of the grains. And also when I say produce for these three in Ontario, again, I don't know the source of the grains. I'm guessing much of the grains will come from the prairies, but again, I don't know how to source this information. So again, quite a bit difference. I'm curious what the USA flour would taste like. Maybe one day I will travel to the USA and buy flour. I'm not sure if I think it's possible to pass through the border without problems. Also, I'm like you noticed, perhaps all these are unbleached. Why? It's again let's say I tried to do bread with bleached and with unbleached. Now, taste, it's always subjective, and I'm just a single person, so this has not been tested to maybe 1,000 persons to to get more correct information. But just my feeling about the bleach versus unbleached flour is that unbleached flour has slightly more taste when you do bread. That's why I'm using unbleached flour. I also did try bread flour. So there's flour, specifically it says on the package, for bread. I didn't like it, but I didn't try a lot, so it was just once. And also I did try, I think, organic flour or something like this. I think Costco is selling big bags, like 10-kilo bags of organic. I don't remember exactly the brand. I think it was fine, but I didn't try it more than once. So again, I just cannot tell you more details. But it didn't feel like it's something much different than maybe the Metro brand. Just because it's organic doesn't mean it's, and this is true for most food, just because it's organic, it doesn't mean it will have a significantly different taste. I'm not sure how convincing I sound, but you need to understand one thing, that and I'm just adding to this video small information. The video itself, the subject, it's complete, but I'm just saying that the taste for the food, it's mostly given by, basically, if you want, the genetics of whatever food is. If you talk about bread from the grains, if you talk about maybe milk, it's going to be the taste strongly related, not just the food of the cattle, but the genetics of the cattle, the cow itself. And this is important. Why? Because you see, especially in the Western world, the production has to be quite intensive. In other words, let's talk about grains, because that's the video. You see, when they change, not necessarily genetically, but when they cross different types of grains to obtain more crops, more, or maybe even faster crops, but also the more volume for the same area, if you want, this kind of, if you want, is not really genetic work on them, but this kind of trying to improve certain aspects of the production, usually the amount of production. This basically, it's taking away something, and that usually is the taste. In other words, let's just say it this way: if you would compare, if you were able to eat flour or bread made from grains, from modern grains, modern day grains, which are like in these flours here, and you were to compare the bread made with this with a bread made with grains from maybe 200 years ago, that has not been that has much less yield, that it's less productive, but it's just older grains that have been just in the nature for hundreds of thousands of years without being crossed with other types of grains, without being modified in any way. The old grain, if you want, in my opinion, will taste much better than the newer ones. And this brings back that idea that just because it's organic doesn't necessarily mean it will taste much better. If you want a much better taste, then you may want to source food that it's not from intensive production, that is not from modern cattle, if you want, or modern grains. You need to get this cattle or grain. Maybe I'm from Romania, and if you travel one day in a remote place of Romania where there are cows that will produce only a few liters of milk each day, compared to a Canadian cow that will produce maybe 20-30 liters a day, well, you'll find that the milk from that small production cattle, which is a cow that has been there for, as descending from cattle that hadn't been crossed with other breeds, you will find that milk from such low production cattle tastes not just much better than the milk that you find in stores here in Canada. It will just taste completely different. It's a completely different taste. I had this chance to taste it, and it's just completely different. So all this to say that modern production of any kind, being animal, or grain, or anything else, vegetables or so, because has been pushed to be so intensive and so productive, the taste has been lost, unfortunately. Okay, sorry about this little history on the taste of food, modern compared to hundreds of years ago, but hopefully gives you a small idea. And by the way, what I'm saying here about when you try to improve the production and just kind of cross the types or the sorts of whatever you have, animal or grains or so on, and you lose the taste on the other end. This is not me who is saying this. I did check it. I know it's true, but it's actually a genetician, and it's one documentary, I don't remember the name, was from YouTube, and that genetician person did say it explicitly, exactly what I say to you. When you try to obtain more from whatever it is, you lose at some other place, and that what you lose usually is actually in the taste. Thanks for watching.